So you come to that crucial decision, and now money comes back into the picture, at least for me, because being an Adventist minister is by no means a path to like wealth and riches, but it is it is a dependable paycheck, right? There is at least an every 2 weeks element to it. Now you're deciding I'm going to leave that relative level of comfort and I'm going to kind of make my own path. What does that look like? Was there any fear involved in that journey? Did you have it all mapped out? Describe that thought process to me.
I can't say that I had it all mapped out, but I did have thoughts. I had it in my mind that it was possible, and I kind of saw a few pathways to kind of get to kind of the baseline numbers I need. Okay, what do I need to like cover my car note? What do I need to have a cell phone? What do I need to be able to contribute to the bills, right? Like how can I help to keep a roof over our head, right? Like these are thoughts. And so that's the number that I need. How can I get there? I think I saw some pathways to get there. And
well, tell me some of those pathways, because to me, in entrepreneurship, one of the things that people often struggle with is the decision of, do I do entrepreneurship full time, or do I keep something on the side while I'm pursuing entrepreneurship? And I regularly see a lack of planning, right? I'll have so much more time to work on my business if I just quit. And it's like, well, I surely hope that you have like some contracts lined up, because if you can't figure out some way in the next 30 days to pay your rent, what are we going to do? So tell me some of those potential pathways.
Yeah, I'm glad you're pushing me on this. Okay, so I'll say this. I did not just like up and quit my job and like have nothing whatsoever. Like I left the ministry and I started as a family engagement, diversity engagement manager for a network of charter schools. You know, schools are great because they're always hiring. And so I worked in that for a year. In many ways, that was just kind of like keeping a steady paycheck. It was also a job that when I was off. Going from pastoral ministry where you're on all the time, you could be on at 1 a.m. at 1 p.m. You're always on. Like at any moment, something could happen, and there are meetings all the time. So I didn't have much separation between my work life, my official W-2 work life, and the online video creation that I was doing. Suddenly, after leaving, and I started this job that was more or less just a job, I had separation. My bills were able to be paid from this W-2 job. And then I was able to kind of do that idea of, 9 to 5 and then 5 to 9. That 5 to 9 was time for my business that I was building as a creator. And I was also starting a video agency. And so this is working with corporate clients and that kind of thing. And so in many respects, like that was my kind of initial step toward kind of full-time entrepreneurship, was kind of finding a little stopgap of like a job that I could do and do well and show up for, but would not bleed over into my evening or into my weekend or into my quote unquote free time. And so that was a really important part of it. I also had, I started making videos again online in January of 2021. And so I had by the time I went full time, which was summer, it was actually November 2022. So by the time I went full time in making videos online, I had a year, almost 2 years of kind of understanding what the ebbs and flow. Like I make videos around Black history and politics. And so I know February is going to be a really big month for me. Like I'm going to have a great month in February financially. Juneteenth is now a holiday. So I know I'm going to do my thing on, around in June. June is going to be a pretty good month for me. How can I kind of, what can I do to supplement? What does money look like in March, April, May, or in July, through December? And so I had some time, 2 cycles, more or less, to know what my financial picture looked like for the year. Now, I wasn't relying on that income, but I was able to kind of like look at it and project to say, okay, I think I can make this much at this time and this much at this time. So how can I make up the rest of what I need to cover my bills in between? Do I think I can do that? Yes, I think I can do that. And here are the ways I can pursue this client. I already had this opportunity, from before, and it pays about this much. And so like, I think the lesson here, without continuing to ramble a bit, I think the lesson is that I was able to look over a couple of years at what my financials look like and say I can use that as projection for what things will come my way in the future. And as such, I can feel comfortable taking this leap into entrepreneurship.
So your first video, within the first couple of months, you have videos in the millions. And I am pushing you on this because it is very hard. What you're doing is exceedingly rare, and that is making consistent income as a creator, right? And to me, you said yourself, there's like a year and 9 months between when you start and when you decide to do it full time, even though in that first quarter, you have videos with millions and millions of views. So what was it when you get to the fall of 2022 that had happened in those previous few months where you're saying, I have now taken this from a lot of eyes to something that's actually profitable?
I will say one of the reasons why a lot of people want to be full-time content creators. At one point, that was like the number one thing that kids wanted to be, was like, I want to be a YouTuber, right? That's what they were saying. Instead of being firefighters and astronauts, they wanted to be YouTubers, which is crazy. And so a lot of people want to be online video content creators, whatever the case may be, influencers. And I tell people all the time, keep your day job as long as possible. Like as long as possible. In fact, it's better because eventually this will be your job. Eventually making videos or whatever the case may be, being an influencer, being a content creator will be your job. And contrary to popular belief, it will feel like a job. It will become a job. And you want to stave that off like for as long as possible. Let it be fun. What I tell people all the time is part of the reason why I created the video agency, Kindred Media, where we make video content for our corporate clients. Part of the reason why I did that was that I never wanted my creative work to carry the burden of having to pay my bills. In part because it takes something away from your creativity. It takes something away from the light kind of like fun of it all when you're like, man, this video's gotta do numbers. It's gotta go up because if it doesn't, this client, this, brand isn't happy and I might not be able to, I might not have enough money in 2 months. They might not want to work with me again. It's too much pressure. You're not able to do your best light, free kind of like artistic work, in my opinion, with that pressure. And so I tell people all the time, keep your day job, not as an insult, but as like insulation against all of that pressure.
One of the areas where I wonder if that crosses over is the fact that you also, with what you do in terms of the videos that you create, you have the freedom to create videos on whatever you're passionate about, even if it rubs someone else the wrong way. Do you think that part of that insulation is also saying, if I don't depend on this, then they're no longer, or I don't have to worry about there being any pressure on what I can and cannot say?
Yeah, that's also very important. I mean, we've seen that, a lot recently in the last year or so, where there are different conflicts happening in the world, from China and Ukraine and everywhere else, right? Like fill in the blank, where people feel like, man, I can't say anything because then I will lose an opportunity, or I can't necessarily approach this in a way that feels truthful and authentic and without losing, that's definitely there. I did something, with a specific campaign years ago. And actually, I'll tell this story. I brought in a speaker virtually to talk about a really relevant social issue in my church. And people were so upset. They called my employer. They called all kinds of and people were making videos online, like castigating me, and it felt scary to be like, oh my goodness, like I did this thing and now my employment is tied up in the controversy. That's crazy. Yeah. Again, to your point about, again, that's insulation. If you can like kind of keep that independence as much as possible, I mean, it's invaluable.